He is both wise and powerful. Trust me, Frodo. You'll know what to do.
That is Gandalf describing Saruman at the beginning of the story, the head of the Order, the greatest wizard in Middle-earth, the being the Free Peoples turned to when Sauron's shadow began to stir. By the time the films are finished with him, he is a servant who sold out, a pragmatist who looked at the odds and chose survival. He peered into the Palantir, made his deal, and spent 2 films serving a master he feared. That is one story. Tolkien wrote a different one. At the Council of Elrond, Gandalf recounts his visit to Orthanc in precise detail. He describes the gate closing behind him, the silence, the fear that rose in him without reason, and then Saruman leading him up to his high chamber. Tolkien writes one sentence that the films skip entirely. He wore a ring on his finger. That ring is everything. This is the story of what it was. The films give you a clean version of Saruman's betrayal.
Sauron has regained much of his former strength. His gaze pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and flesh.
He has been watching. He has been measuring. He has concluded.
Against the power of Mordor, there can be no victory. We must join with him, Gandalf. We must join with Sauron. It would be wise, my friend.
And his ambition sounds like submission.
Together, my lord Sauron, we shall rule this Middle-earth.
This Saruman is a man who calculated the odds and made a deal. Intelligent, calculating, ultimately craven. Tolkien's Saruman was not offering to serve Sauron. He was positioning, building, studying towards something specific. When he presented his ring to Gandalf's notice at Orthanc, he was making a declaration, not of loyalty to the Dark Lord, but of his intention to replace him.
Tell me, friend, when did Saruman the Wise abandon reason for madness?
Gandalf's question gets the right address, but the wrong diagnosis. This was not madness. This was a plan 30 years in the making. The passage in the Council of Elrond is worth reading exactly as Tolkien wrote it. Gandalf arrives at Orthanc. Saruman leads him to his high chamber. He wore a ring on his finger, and then,
"And here you will stay, Gandalf the Grey, and rest from journeys. For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman Ringmaker, Saruman of many colors."
3 titles, not one. Saruman the Wise, the old identity, the one the world recognized. Saruman Ringmaker, the new capability, the achievement of decades of secret study. Saruman of many colors, the visible proof of a self that had already been broken apart and remade into something new. Tolkien writes the detail immediately after. His robes, which had seemed white, were not so, but woven of all colors. And if he moved, they shimmered and changed hue so that the eye was bewildered. In Tolkien's mythology, a Maia wearing a ring of his own making is not a casual detail. Rings of power are not crafted cheaply. They require the maker to pour something of themselves into the object: knowledge, will, power. The making is a commitment. The lesser rings forged before the great ones were still dangerous precisely because of this investment. Saruman wore the ring he had made, and he displayed it to Gandalf, the most perceptive wizard in Middle-earth, at the exact moment he chose to unmask. This was not jewelry. This was a demonstration of capability, proof that the research had produced results. Then Gandalf pushes back on the robe, and Saruman explains himself.
"White," he sneered. "It serves as a beginning. White cloth may be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken, in which case it is no longer white," said I. "And he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom."
This is Saruman's complete worldview in 4 sentences. He believes that the original form is only a starting point, that wisdom lies in breaking things apart to discover their components and reassemble them into something greater. The white robe was the beginning, the identity given to him, the mission assigned to him, the constraint placed on him. Many colors is what he achieved by shattering it. Gandalf sees the fatal flaw immediately. White light broken is no longer white. The thing you started with is gone. You cannot break a thing to find out what it is and then put it back together as what it was. Saruman had shattered his original mission, his original identity, his original purpose. And whatever came out the other side was no longer a wizard sent to guide the free peoples against Sauron. It was something new, something that needed a ring. Saruman's fall did not begin with the Palantir. It began on a dock 30 centuries earlier. When the Istari arrived in Middle-earth, Círdan the shipwright stood waiting at the Grey Havens. He watched them come. Saruman came first, the head of the order, clad in white, acknowledged greatest. Last came Gandalf, gray-cloaked, leaning on his staff, appearing the least of them. Círdan gave the Ring of Fire to Gandalf. In Unfinished Tales, Tolkien records exactly what happened next.
Círdan, from their first meeting at the Grey Havens, divined in him the greatest spirit and the wisest, and he welcomed him with reverence, and he gave to his keeping the third ring, Narya the Red. And the Grey Messenger took the ring and kept it ever secret. Yet the White Messenger, who was skilled to uncover all secrets, after a time became aware of this gift and begrudged it, and it was the beginning of the hidden ill will that he bore to the Grey, which afterwards became manifest.
The Ring of Fire, given to the latecomer over the leader of the Order. Saruman discovered this and could not forgive it. The hidden ill will that began on that dock deepened across centuries. Saruman watched Gandalf. He studied his movements. He set observers on his borders. He noted everything. And Unfinished Tales records the specific humiliation that sharpened the wound into something personal.
Saruman soon became jealous of Gandalf, and this rivalry turned at last to a hatred, the deeper for being concealed, and the more bitter in that Saruman knew in his heart that the Grey Wanderer had the greater strength. Observing Gandalf's love of the herb that he called pipeweed, Saruman had affected to scoff at it, but in private he made trial of it, and soon began to use it. And for this reason, the Shire remained important to him. Yet he dreaded lest this should be discovered, and his own mockery turned against him, so that he would be laughed at for imitating Gandalf.
The head of the Order of Wizards, the greatest of the Istari, secretly smoking stolen pipeweed in the dark, terrified of being seen to imitate the man he despised. That pettiness is the seed of everything, not a grand philosophical error, a bruised ego nursing a grudge across centuries, looking for a way to surpass the man Círdan had judged his superior on the day they first arrived. The ring lore he hid from the council is where the pettiness became something catastrophic. Gandalf describes it plainly at the Council of Elrond.
He is the chief of my order and the head of the council. His knowledge is deep, but his pride has grown with it, and he takes ill any meddling. The lore of the elven rings, great and small, is his province. He has long studied it, seeking the lost secrets of their making. But when the rings were debated in the council, all that he would reveal to us of his ring lore told against my fears. So my doubts slept, but uneasily.
He knew more than he admitted. When the White Council debated the One Ring, when Gandalf pressed his concerns about the growing shadow, Saruman deployed his knowledge selectively. He told them only what would keep them passive. His private research continued behind the council's back for decades. Tolkien reveals where that research was heading. In the foreword to The Lord of the Rings, he writes explicitly what Saruman's endgame was.
Saruman, failing to get possession of the ring, would, in the confusion and treacheries of the time, have found in Mordor the missing links in his own researches into ring lore. And before long, he would have made a great ring of his own with which to challenge the self-styled ruler of Middle-earth.
A great ring, not a lesser ring, a great ring. The same category as the 3 elven rings, the 7, the 9. A ring that could command, a ring that could dominate, a ring that could place Saruman above Sauron rather than beneath him. The ring on his finger when Gandalf arrived was the proof of concept. The Great Ring was the plan. Here is what makes Saruman's fall Tolkien's most precise piece of tragedy. Saruman was a Maia of Aule, the craftsman of the Valar, the smith who shaped mountains and fashioned the dwarves, whose entire divine nature is built around making. So was Sauron. Both came from the same divine heritage of craft. Both were makers by nature and by origin. Sauron's fall followed a specific path. He came to the elves of Eregion in the Second Age, calling himself Annatar, Lord of Gifts. He taught ringcraft. He poured his own power into rings as a method of domination. He believed that through craft, he could order the world according to his will. Saruman followed the same path, driven by the same instinct, from the same origin. He studied Sauron's methods so intently that he adopted them wholesale. He began building Isengard into an industrial engine, the same pattern of environmental destruction, the same enslaved labor force, the same forges burning day and night. Treebeard described what he saw.
Sauron, a wizard should know better. There is no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tongues of men for this treachery.
And in the books, Treebeard's assessment is even more precise. He has a mind of metal and wheels, and he does not care for growing things except as far as they serve him for the moment. That is Sauron's description, applied perfectly to Saruman. Two craftsmen from the same divine lineage, walking the same road, reaching the same destination, the belief that the world can be ordered by sufficient skill and sufficient force if only you are willing to break the things standing in the way. The speech Saruman gives Gandalf at Orthanc is not the words of a man surrendering to Sauron. It is the words of a man explaining his strategy.
The time of the elves is over, but our time is at hand, the world of men, which we must rule. But we must have power to order all things as we will, for that good which only the wise can see. Knowledge, rule, order, all the things that we have so far striven in vain to accomplish, hindered rather than helped by our weak or idle friends.
Knowledge, rule, order. These are not Sauron's aspirations. Sauron wants worship and dominion. Saruman wants administration. He wants to be the rational architect of a new world, using Sauron's military conquest as the engine and positioning himself to govern the outcome.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand.
He was announcing himself. He thought he was announcing Sauron. This is why Tolkien named the conflict the Two Towers, not Orthanc and Barad-dûr as allies, as rival powers. Sauron and Saruman, two craftsmen of the same lineage, pursuing the same goal by the same methods, each believing he could outmaneuver the other. Saruman's plan required him to seem loyal long enough to develop the capability to challenge. The ring on his finger was part of that development. The great ring he intended would complete it. He misjudged what Sauron was. You cannot outcraft the being who invented the craft. Sauron looked into the Orthanc stone and saw exactly what Saruman was doing. The Palantir, which Saruman believed gave him an advantage in gathering intelligence, became the instrument of his exposure. The surveillance tool became Sauron's eye inside Saruman's own tower.
I gave you the chance of aiding me willingly, but you had elected the way of pain!
Saruman said that to Gandalf. By the time the Ents flooded Isengard, Sauron had said it back to him, silently, through the Seeing Stone, with no words needed. When Gandalf confronts Saruman at Orthanc after the battle, the punishment delivered names exactly what Saruman had done.
Behold, I am not Gandalf the Grey, whom you betrayed. I am Gandalf the White, who has returned from death. You have no color now, and I cast you from the Order and from the Council. He raised his hand and spoke slowly in a clear, cold voice. Saruman, your staff is broken.
He does not take Saruman's life. He takes his color. The many colors that Saruman had assembled to replace the white he abandoned, stripped away. He is left with nothing, not even the shimmering composite identity he had shattered himself to build.
He has no power anymore.
And who takes the white? Gandalf, the one who stayed faithful to the original mission, who walked in gray for 3,000 years without accumulating power, followers, or wealth. The one Círdan saw as the greatest on the day they arrived. Saruman broke the white light to discover what it contained. Gandalf kept it. When the white was finally given away, Saruman had already vacated it. It went to the one who had earned it by not seeking it. Saruman studied his enemy so completely that he became him. He adopted Sauron's craft. He adopted Sauron's methods. He adopted Sauron's ideology. He built Sauron's kind of army with Sauron's kind of industry and called it his own. He wore a ring that was the first step toward making a great ring that would let him replace what he had spent centuries becoming. The ring on his finger in that high chamber was not a trinket or a symbol. It was the product of the research he had hidden from the council for decades. It was the proof that he had mastered enough of Sauron's art to begin manufacturing the instrument of Sauron's replacement. It was also the proof that Gandalf saw everything clearly the moment he entered the room. One Maia wearing a ring he had made. One Maia who understood instantly what that ring meant and what the man wearing it had become.
The world is changing. Who now has the strength to stand against the armies of Isengard and Mordor?
Saruman asked that question, believing the answer was him. The films gave you a servant who sold out. Tolkien wrote a craftsman who stared into the darkness so long and so carefully, studying every detail of its methods and its power, that when he finally looked away, he was wearing its ring on his finger and calling himself by its name. The ring nobody talks about is the proof of the corruption nobody saw coming, not even Saruman.